Ladies and gentlemen, I got some bad news to tell you, and you're gonna want to sit down for this one. Everything is fake. Yeah, everything. You're fake, I'm fake. The horse dildo that's up my ass right now, completely fake. Even chocolate is joining in the Royal Rumble of fakeness. Now, I saw this thing happen 2 weeks ago where people were basically complaining that chocolate is not real chocolate anymore. And apparently Hershey quietly replaced the real chocolate with some random coconut oil that you'd find at like Food Line. Now obviously it wasn't like some, random oil from Food Line, but it was some kind of oil like vegetable oil or some sort. I don't cook a lot, alright? I know enough to make green beans, mac and cheese, potatoes, and a steak. Usually all the oil looks the same. The only time I use oil is when I bust a nut. But we don't have time to talk about my wacky hijinks. The steak of chocolate is at stake. So apparently when Hershey's melt, they usually are really sticky. They fall apart. You can't really keep them consistent. But apparently people were getting Hershey's that were consistent enough to be used as condoms. These like melted Hershey's chocolates were like staying together like Muscle Man and Star's relationship from the regular show.
We finally know the exact reason why chocolate no longer melts, and honestly, it's quite shocking. So I'm sure all of you recently have been seeing these viral videos of people discovering that chocolate no longer melts. It literally becomes like rubbery and bendy, and well, the reason why that's actually happening is because chocolate is no longer being made out of cocoa. For the past couple years, many manufacturers, one of the most notable ones being Hershey's, completely eliminated the use of using cocoa to create their chocolate. They now use vegetable oils and emulsifiers, which obviously creates a not real chocolate and a completely fake chocolate. It almost seems like many of these manufacturers, including Hershey's, just kind of made this change secretly because literally no one had any idea about this at all until a bunch of people recently started to post videos saying that their chocolate doesn't melt and it just, is bendy and it's almost rubbery-like or slime-like.
See, this is kind of like where it kind of confused me. I was like, why is everybody complaining about chocolate not melting? Like, I don't want any of my chocolate to not melt. Hell, just the other day I was having a hard time trying to take off a wrapper of like a melted Reese cup. And I said it was about the equivalent of trying to like get that little needle that's like in your sweatpants or like your sweater, which what I should have said was it's like almost trying to take a sweater off a bear. But the real question is this just a bunch of fake news? Is this just CNN and Joe Biden trying to collab together with the auto pen just to see if I can crumble? Unfortunately, I cannot crumble because I am for the American people and God knows it, quite frankly. So I did my own research, which basically was like 5 minutes of like using Grunk. And Grunk was like, yeah, this definitely happened. Started giving me some more lore details. Apparently what it says on the Coco Canonicon is it basically there was a cocoa crash of like 2024. And apparently all the cocoa beans died from Alderaan because of the Death Star. So basically they didn't have no cocoa beans to make cocoa butter. And so Hershey's was scrambling around and like I guess somebody in the exact room was like, alright, well, we can use vegetable oil. And everybody was just like, you know what? That's a great idea, Tim. You're getting a raise in a salary increase. You saved this country and you saved this company. Which escort do you want to get sucked on? And apparently it was like such a big hoopla that Hershey's like came out and announced that due to the backlash, they were going to change back to the classic chocolate. And it was going to start somewhere around like 2027. But I swear on Chuck Norris's grave, I searched high and low for this announcement from Hershey saying that they were going to go back to the actual classic Hershey's. Maybe they just really wanted to keep this a secret and just be like, yeah, we're going back to the regular cocoa recipe. Yeah, we might have put vegetable oil in there. I mean, a lot of crazy stuff gets in there, ants, bees, raccoons, people, all kinds of things. I feel like if you had a product that was being accused of being fake or not being real milk chocolate, you would want to get the elephant out the room, right? I would have been out there being like, yeah, you got me, officer, you got me with my pants down, I was trying to sell snake oil, but you saw through the recipe. Now, one or two things is going on here. Either A, they did something to the recipe and turned it into a rubber band, or people are just manufacturing these videos to make it seem more crazy than it is. I mean, something must have happened, because there are videos out there that shows like a Hershey like being flopped around like a magic carpet, or someone just kind of like modified it to could be like that. But for some reason, I'm not finding out a lot of information about this. Now, as I was just sitting here just editing this video, I did find like an actual PBS News video of it. It gives off a little bit more lore about this whole fake chocolate bar situation, so I'm gonna play that right now.
Week, the Hershey company announced that next year it's returning all of its classic brands back to earlier milk and dark chocolate recipes, impacting about 3% of its Reese's products. The move comes amid a growing backlash over recipe changes and the use of chocolate alternatives in some of its candies.
When I was in high school, I used to have one of those extra large Kit Kat bars like once a week. I would just carry it around in my backpack.
As a teenager, Hyacinth Moya had a serious sweet tooth, but these days she's noticed a change in the chocolate she grew up loving.
The main thing is that it feels really waxy. Yeah, it just wasn't the same.
And it's not just Kit Kats, says Philip Dennison, a former Snickers fan from Minnesota.
It's kind of the big name brands here in the U.S. Under like Mars and Hershey's. I grew up eating them back in the 80s and 90s as a kid, and the flavor profile's changed. Like, I know what this should taste like, but it doesn't anymore.
Amid a chorus of these disappointed customers, Hershey announced it would adjust the ingredients in some of its classic brands to include more of the costly raw ingredient that makes chocolate, the cocoa bean.
Cocoa prices have swung sharply.
Look. I know it's gonna sound racist when I say this, but it's really funny. Ain't it funny how there's just some things that just change and there's just some things that just stay the same?
In recent years, driven by climate change and production issues in West Africa, where most cocoa is grown. Prices hit a record high at the end of 2024, and although they've fallen since, candy makers who buy months ahead are still feeling the impact.
Candy industries are profit-driven, and as the cost of ingredients go up, they've got to figure out ways to either reduce costs or raise prices.
Richard Hartel, a food science professor at the University of Wisconsin at Madison, has studied chocolate for 35 years and has kept records of ingredients in popular chocolate candies for more than a decade, and he's noticed some changes.
Here we have the 2015 version, here's the 2025 version. They've actually reduced the amount of chocolate ingredient in the chocolate product.
When it drops below 10%, companies have swapped in terms like chocolate candy and chocolate tea, a subtle shift that most consumers won't notice.
They're taking away some of that chocolate. What are they filling it with?
The standard in the industry these days is palm kernel oil because it mimics cocoa butter's properties quite well. We've got a bunch of chocolates here to taste.
Hartel says in taste tests, high-quality compound coatings or chocolate alternatives can often trick even his savvy food science students.
Most people cannot tell the difference. One article I was reading suggested that by 2050 there would be no chocolate production, no cocoa production, that all of those plantations would go away. That's kind of doomsaying, but people are looking like that, talking like that.
So, let me get this straight. So, it basically tastes the same, it gets rid of the plantations, and it costs less to make. Yes! These guys want to go back to cocoa beans. They want to keep the plantations up, boys. They want to just go back to the simple life. Like, I'm not even joking with you guys. You even have, like, H.B. Reese's grandson talking about this shit.
But these tweaks to candy ingredients have sparked criticism from some unexpected corners.
They're really using inferior cheap ingredients.
Brad Reese has a last name chocolate lovers might know. His grandfather, H.B. Reese, created the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup nearly a century ago, and Brad's always been an unofficial and unpaid brand ambassador.
My whole life, I've been very proud of the Reese's brand. My website and my LinkedIn profile were Brad Reese, growing Reese's worldwide, one peanut butter cup at a time.
That changed on Valentine's Day, when Hershey's launched a new product.
The Reese's Peanut Butter Mini Hearts, I took 2 bites and I had to spit it out. And of course, then I dumped all the contents in the garbage and I saved the wrapper and I looked at the wrapper and realized it didn't say milk chocolate.
And don't get me wrong, right? Like, I think it's kind of scummy that Hershey's kept this under the rug, right? They should have came out and said, you know, it's not milk chocolate anymore. It's made with like palm kernel oil or whatever it's called, and just called it like that, right? They could have gave themselves like a new slogan: cheaper labor, cheaper chocolate, cheaper prices. But they wanted the original cocoa bean way. And look, maybe it's because I am not a chocolate connoisseur, but I hate to say it, I've been eating this chocolate for a decade and I haven't noticed anything. And let me tell you, I've put down some Hershey bars in my lifetime. My huge favorites are like Kit Kats, you know, Hershey's, Reese's Cups, Crunch bars. Like, I'll eat all of them, man. Hell, I gotta get 2 cavities drilled out of my fucking head because I eat too much candy bars. Like, anything that's chocolate and you give me on a good craving, I'll eat some chocolate. And honestly, I don't really know what they're talking about because, like, I've never really noticed a difference. Ever since I probably ate one in, like, 2007, and then, like, moving up to 2010, and then, like, 2015, and then all the way to 2020, and then 2025, it's always stayed the same for me. And maybe I was just not on the hype train like the 80s and 90s kids, but to me, it's just always been how it's been. And hey, look, like, maybe one of these days we can go to, like, one of these plantations and get, like, a 100% cocoa butter, like, straight from, like, the 1980s chocolate bar. And knowing I've collected all the evidence, it just kind of just seems like a bunch of people who, like, are just kind of, like, having member berries for, like, the chocolate bar that they had back then instead of the chocolate that they have now. And like I said, maybe I'm just an uncultured swine when it comes to the chocolate community, right? But I'm gonna be honest with you, I really can't tell a difference. Hell, just last night I ate like 14 Reese's Cups. Like, look at this shit, dude. Like, I'm over here like fat maxing. But tell me what you think down in the comments below. I really think, if you want my honest opinion, I think it's a huge nothing burger. I think it's not a big deal if they want to change it, as long as it stays like the same like taste. Like, I don't think it's that big of a deal. But tell me what you think. Like, comment, subscribe, skiddly bobbly boop. I'm out.